When Superboy battles Superboy and Task Force X finds themselves caught in the middle, who will be left standing? Well, let's hop into the pages of Suicide Squad Annual 2021 and find out together, shall we? Alrighty then, so there were multiple new Suicide Squad books this week, so you'd be forgiven for mistaking that this is the one you actually need to read if you want to see the continuation from issue 6. As this special extra-length story opens up, we're actually treated to a little flashback story involving Rick Flag during the early days of the Suicide Squad. We know it's the early days of the Suicide Squad because Deadshot and Bronze Tiger are there. We're shown that unlike Amanda Waller, who saw the members of Task Force X as living weapons in her own great crusade, Flag felt differently seeing the people who existed underneath because, well, he was the boots on the ground right next to them. As a longtime Suicide Squad fan, I would call this debatable characterization. Yes, it makes sense for this particular story, but I think you could point to just as many stories in the squad's long history where Flag didn't give a crap about anyone on the team. Flag was perfectly fine working with Waller so long as their motivations aligned. However, that quickly changed when Waller ended up getting a lot more power hungry recently, setting her sights on other worlds and turning the Suicide Squad into her own private Justice League. Flag tried to fight against these changes, and in the end, Waller ended up locking him up and torturing him. You'll remember this if you read the first issue. You may also remember when Waller disastrously attempted to recruit Red X into the fold, he ended up letting a bunch of Bell Rev's inmates free, including Flag himself, who is now on the run and looking for a way to settle the score between himself and his old boss. More on that in a minute though, as from there we transition back on over to Russia, where the Suicide Squad, after their own adventures in Earth 3, had ended up coming face to face with another Superboy, which understandably is confusing the hell out of them right now. Their Superboy is Superboy, isn't he? A massive fight breaks out between the two Superboys. After all, this is Highlander rules and there can be only one. Meanwhile, Bloodsport ends up leading the rest of the team deeper into this Russian facility to try and find the thing Waller sent them for, a serum that should be able to help Superboy out with whatever his newfound problem is. Also, for what it's worth, I love the little touch that Bloodsport takes his helmet off now that he's not hopping between universes anymore and puts on his trademark costume red bandana. As the squad quickly discovers, this facility was actually run by a group called the Agenda, and if you know your Superman and DC history, then chances are you're probably way ahead of the story. I know I was. For the uninitiated, the Agenda was a group from the 1969 Superboy series. They were Cadmus-like, as they were really interested in creating cloned superweapons, even if that meant making clones of clones like Superboy. Squad Superboy and Metropolis Kid Superboy continue to have it out. Leather jacket-clad Superboy says he knows how hard it must be for his doppelganger. After all, he dealt with knowing that he was a clone. And while it certainly stung for a bit, eventually he was able to come out the other side of the problem. Likewise, black-shirted Superboy does not want to believe anything about this revelation. Though admittedly a lot of puzzle pieces suddenly start falling into place right now. How Waller was able to grab a Superboy so easily, why no one from the hero community went after him, and why he needs this special Agenda serum, and that is because, well, this Superboy isn't Superboy at all. He's actually Match. Yeah, that's right, a character you probably know if you watched Young Justice, or were reading Superboy back in the 90s. Basically all you need to know is that he is to Superboy Connor Kent what Bizarro is to Superman Clark Kent. Waller had kidnapped Match and filled his brain with memories that belonged to Connor in hopes of creating her own perfect Superman to save Earth 3, because hey, she promised all of her people that they would save the Earth, she just didn't say which Earth they were going to save. Now that the Kryptonian cat is officially out of the bag though, this ends up having a major ripple effect. The real Superboy has to call in the Justice League, as well as the agents of Checkmate, to clean up this mess, because you see, Match wasn't the only Superboy clone. There's a whole bunch of them, and this is a real big problem. This also means Waller overplayed her own hand, so the good guys now know that she's not just doing the bidding of the government anymore. It's because of that Waller picks up her entire operation in Bell Rev and moves it to a secret island. Yeah, that's right, everybody. Amanda Waller and Task Force X are officially rogue agents from the government now, serving their own whims. This is of course really bad for people like Dr. Rodriguez, and especially bad for the members of Task Force X, who just went from being prisoners for a little bit to hostages for God only knows how long. In fact, things are so bad now for the team, they figure they only have one course of action left, and that is, well, try and save Match from himself. His world was positively shattered when he found out he was a clone, and he refused to take any more of the Agenda serum, but if they can get him back to thinking he's Superboy, thinking he's a hero, well, he would have to save them all, right? He might be the only one who can. Now, as the comic winds down, we check back on in with Rick Project Flag, it seems that he's gone to yet another one of Waller's secret prisons out of the way, a real black site place for only the most powerful villains. Rick knows he can't beat Waller on his own, so instead he's decided to do what he does best, and that is, well, lead a new version of the Suicide Squad, starting with recruits like Mirror Master Sam Scudder. Flag's also seeing fit to make some changes to how the Suicide Squad is run. First things first, no more bombs and no more coercion. You work for his team, you do it because you want to. And second of all, if you do work for his version of the Suicide Squad, you're going to actually get time off your sentence and actually get released at some point. And with that, the stage is set for a squad versus squad showdown as the comic comes to a close. And so that was Suicide Squad Annual 2001, everybody, and I gotta say, I really like what's getting thrown down here. Having the Superboy we've been following this whole time turn out to be Match is actually a genius way for Robbie Thompson to have his cake and eat it too as far as storylines go. At first when I thought it was Connor, I figured, hey, you know what, at least Connor's got something to do now. This is a little bit more interesting than the stuff they normally give him, even if it is a little odd to see him on a team full of villains. But now that I know he's Match, this is maybe the best Match story in a very long time. Furthermore, I positively love the idea of the Suicide Squad as rogue agents doing their own dirty business in the dark, and the only way they can get out of it is, well, if they can create a superhero themselves, or essentially to get a clone to find the heroism that was in him all along. Flag going against Waller to make his own kinder, gentler version of Task Force X is probably the coolest thing he's ever done, and one of those ideas I'm shocked it's taken them this long to actually pull the trigger on. Overall, I'd give this one an 8.5 out of 10. This one was just a hoot from start to finish. Hey there everyone, Cape Joel again, and I want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you see, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. It really helps drive engagement and helps me out too. Also, if you are a patron, which you can become for as little as $1 a month, you will get exclusive content that no one else can ever see, and you'll get to see the Comic Multiverse podcast before anyone else too. You can check out all this and more down in the description. And until next time everyone, this has been Cape Joel, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.